The year is 1788. A fleet of British ships laden with convicts and colonists cuts through the waves of the South Pacific, carrying with them not just hopes for a new life, but a tapestry of tongues. These early settlers, hailing from diverse corners of England and Ireland, brought with them a medley of regional dialects, each a unique thread in the rich fabric of British English. Upon disembarking on the shores of what would become Australia, this linguistic diversity was thrust into a melting pot, setting the stage for the birth of a new dialect, Australian English. Imagine the bustling streets of early Sydney, a cacophony of unfamiliar accents filling the air. Cockney slang from the back alleys of London mingled with the lilting tones of Irish brogue. The Queen's English, once a symbol of social standing, was now just one voice among many in this new untamed land. In this crucible of linguistic exchange, a new form of communication was forged, one that would bridge the divides between these disparate groups and lay the foundation for a shared identity. The birth of Australian English was not merely a matter of linguistic happenstance. It was a necessity born out of the need for effective communication in a new and challenging environment. As settlers from different backgrounds worked side by side, their dialects, once markers of regional identity, gradually began to converge and coalesce. This process of linguistic homogenization, driven by the practicalities of daily life, paved the way for a more unified and distinctive form of English to emerge. As the colony grew and expanded, so too did its linguistic repertoire. Words borrowed from Aboriginal languages like kangaroo and boomerang began to weave their way into the settlers' vocabulary, reflecting their interactions with the indigenous population and the unique flora and fauna of this new land. Thus, Australian English, from its very inception, bore the imprint of both its colonial past and its Antipodean present. The initial linguistic landscape of early Australia could be described as a linguistic salad bowl, where distinct dialects coexisted, their boundaries still relatively intact. However, this linguistic segregation was not destined to last. As settlers from different backgrounds interacted with increasing frequency, their speech patterns, once firmly rooted in their respective regions of origin, began to undergo a process of leveling, a linguistic phenomenon that occurs when speakers of different dialects converge and their linguistic differences are gradually eroded. Imagine a group of settlers hailing from London's East End, the rolling hills of Yorkshire, and the Emerald Isle working side by side on a construction project. Each individual brings their own unique accent and vocabulary to the task at hand. However, as they communicate and collaborate, they begin to unconsciously adapt their speech patterns, dropping certain regionalisms, adopting new phrases, and converging on a common ground of pronunciation. This process of dialect leveling was not a conscious or deliberate act, but rather an organic consequence of increased social interaction and the need for clear and effective communication. As settlers from different backgrounds intermingled, married and raised families, their dialects, once barriers to understanding, gradually melted away, replaced by a new, more uniform dialect that reflected their shared experiences in this new land. This linguistic homogenization was not limited to the settlers themselves. Their children, born into this melting pot of accents, played a crucial role in accelerating the process of dialect leveling. Exposed to a diverse range of speech patterns from an early age, these children naturally gravitated towards a more standardized form of English, shedding the regionalisms of their parents' generation and forging a new linguistic identity for themselves. The children of the early colonists hold a special place in the narrative of Australian English. Born into a society where linguistic boundaries were already blurring, these children in their interactions with one another played a pivotal role in solidifying the unique characteristics of this emerging dialect. Unburdened by the linguistic baggage of their parents' generation, they were free to innovate, adapt, and create a language that was distinctly their own. Imagine a group of children, their parents hailing from the bustling streets of London and the rural counties of England, playing together in the shadow of the Blue Mountains. Unconstrained by formal education and the dictates of proper English, their language becomes a melting pot of sounds, phrases, and grammatical structures, reflecting the diverse linguistic tapestry of their environment. These children, the first generation of native-born Australians, were instrumental in shaping the unique cadence and rhythm of Australian English. Their exposure to a myriad of accents and dialects led them to adopt and adapt features that resonated with them, discarding those that did not. The result was a dialect that was both familiar and distinct, bearing echoes of its British origins, while simultaneously forging its own path. By the 1830s, just a generation after the arrival of the First Fleet, evidence from letters, diaries and other written sources suggests that a distinct Australian dialect had taken root. This new dialect, forged in the playgrounds and streets of the burgeoning colony, was more than just a linguistic curiosity. It was a symbol of a new national identity, a way of expressing their shared experiences and distinguishing themselves from the motherland. One of the most distinctive features of Australian English is its unique pronunciation, often characterised by its elongated vowel sounds and a distinctive twang. This unique acoustic profile is not merely a matter of random variation, but is the result of a complex interplay of linguistic and social factors that have shaped the language over centuries. Listen closely to an Australian speaking and you'll notice that their vowels are often pronounced with a wider mouth opening and a longer duration than their British counterparts. The word day, for example, might sound more like die to an untrained ear. This vowel lengthening is particularly noticeable in words with an I sound, such as night, which becomes noit. This tendency towards vowel lengthening is not uniform across all speakers or contexts. Australian English exhibits a continuum of broadness, ranging from the highly broad accent, often associated with rural areas and working-class communities, to the more cultivated accent spoken by those in higher socio-economic brackets. However, regardless of where a speaker falls on this spectrum, the characteristic Australian twang remains a defining feature of the language. In recent decades, there has been a noticeable shift towards what linguists call General Australian, a more standardized form of the accent that falls somewhere between the extremes of broad and cultivated. This trend towards linguistic homogenization can be attributed to a variety of factors, including increased social mobility, the influence of mass media, and a growing sense of national identity.